So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. And we'll get back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Thursday, February 18th. Everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day. Yesterday, it is in fact Thursday, February 18th. This is the second day of spring training. Really, for many teams, the first official day of getting out on the field, getting batting practice, getting some of the pitchers throwing. This is really the first official day for that, which is really exciting, as baseball every day, each day gets closer and closer and closer to opening day of the 2021 MLB season. Should be a good year. I'm excited. We'll have it all covered here on the podcast. But yeah, MLB, it really is. It's crazy how, 60-game season, it seemed like it was just a little bit ago, and now we're already talking about this year and the different teams and, all that good stuff. So it's going to be good. It's going to be exciting. But, as the kind of, cap off of, recap what happened last night in sports, Kentucky got a good win yesterday, 82-78 against a Vanderbilt team. So a struggling Vanderbilt team, but Kentucky got the win. We moved to 7-13 on the season. We are now on a 2-game win streak. We beat Auburn obviously on Saturday. We beat Vanderbilt obviously yesterday. We have a game coming this weekend at 1 p.m. Eastern time against Tennessee. So, slowly we're starting to make improvements, and I said out of these final 6 games of the season before we get into the SEC tournament is really, the final couple games here. We only have 4 games remaining now in the year. I want to see more of this, this good play, right? We're 2-0 now. I said let's end, 4-2, 5-1, maybe even let's end 6-0, right? Something like that. End on a high note, finish the season on a high note, finish a season that was full of a lot of lows and a lot of struggling, end it on a high note, finish it well. And right now, Kentucky is on the way to doing that. We are currently 2-0. We have 4 games remaining. And this, in a way, I look at it as you play these 6 games like it's a new season, right? Play these 6 games like it's a new season and see how you do. Currently, we're 2-0. So, we'll see how it goes. We'll see if we continue this up. But another good win for Kentucky last night. Rangers played today. Nets played today. Like I said, with the West Coast games, obviously on Eastern Standard Time, the Nets come on later. So the Rangers, right when the Rangers will be done, I'll have a little bit of time. Then the Nets come on. So so Rangers obviously played today against the Flyers. But these are the topics for today. Carson Wentz traded to the Colts. This news just broke a little bit ago, so I'll be talking about this. Huge news as the NFL offseason starts to ramp up, as moves start to be made, and as things start to happen. We will start to see some of these deals. And another big deal, Carson Wentz traded to the Colts, which is a huge deal, given that Carson Wentz, a lot of people thought in Philadelphia, was their franchise guy. And we are now sitting here today talking about the Indianapolis Colts getting a new quarterback, and the Philadelphia Eagles now officially turning to Jalen Hurts. And then our next topic will be Fernando Tatis Jr. and the Padres. Fernando Tatis Jr. signs a ginormous deal. 14 years, $360 million or something. A huge deal for Fernando Tatis Jr. I will tell you why he is worth every penny of that deal. He is such a good player. I really like watching him play. He's such a good player, just a good guy in general. So a good deal for him and a good deal for the MLB. And as spring training gets closer and closer and closer, Fernando Tatis Jr. signs this huge deal for a guy that's only coming into his 3rd year, which is really young. They really believe this guy is the future of that team. So San Diego continues to make moves this offseason. Obviously, getting Joe Musgrove, getting Yu Darvish, getting Blake Snell, now extending Fernando Tatis Jr. Now that these things are starting to happen, San Diego really building a solid foundation in San Diego, and that team's going to be a really good team this season, and a very possibility they are going to be in the World Series this year. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll get into the final stuff. We'll get into college basketball, Kentucky, NBA, NHL, fantasy. Obviously, Kentucky played yesterday. Today, the Rangers and Nets play. Nets obviously against the Lakers, possible NBA Finals preview right there. Rangers obviously played it against the Flyers. Rangers, they get Panarin back. Like I said yesterday, I'm hoping that, this struggle is because Panarin's been out, but we'll see how it goes. Flyers are a very good team. We'll get into that, how the Rangers do. But yeah, with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So, So Carson Wentz reportedly traded to Colts from Eagles for multiple draft picks. So yet another big deal in this 2021 NFL offseason. Obviously, these moves that were made are actually 19 days apart. So I was looking, and Adam Schefter, one of the NFL insiders, reported that these deals are 19 days apart. So obviously Stafford deal happened 2.5 weeks ago, and now almost 3 weeks ago, and now the Carson Wentz deal is happening today. But this is a big move. I mean, this is a really huge move that is going to shake up a lot of things. I look at this move as, really what's crazy is before I really get into the whole move thing is the NFL offseason. If this is how the NFL offseason is going to go, then this is going to be a very exciting NFL offseason. And I'll tell you why here. Because, obviously, in regards to, trades, signings, and stuff, we all like to see that stuff. But sometimes some offseasons are quieter than others. Some years you may see 2 to 3 trades, 4 trades. And then some, 2 to 3 big trades. And some years you might only see 1 big trade. We've already gotten 2 big trades before really technically free agency in the offseason has officially started. So if this is signs to something come, this is huge because you have Watson that could possibly be traded, Derek Carr could possibly be traded, J.J. Watt's obviously going to get signed somewhere. What are the Cowboys going to do with Dak Prescott? There's so many different questions with all these different teams, right? And that's one of the big things I was looking at, right? Is there's so many different things. So, if this is the sign of how this free agency and this offseason is going to go, it is going to be a very crazy and fun offseason with these deals happening like that. So, we'll see how it plays out. But so far, before technically the new season has started and this league year has officially ended and the new year has officially started, we have already gotten 2 big decisions, 2 big moves from both teams. Technically, you could say moving on from what they thought was their franchise quarterback. But what really is crazy, and I'll get into the deal here, is that 2016 NFL draft right now, you're looking at, usually in drafts, you get about a couple years to prove yourself, right? You'll probably have about 2 to 3 years to prove yourself. If you prove that you're worthy of the starting job and you prove you can help this team get to the playoffs, ultimately, obviously, win a Super Bowl, you're going to stay on the team. If you don't prove that and you don't show that you're worthy of a Super Bowl, you don't show that you can lead your team, you're obviously going to get dropped. You're either going to get traded or dropped. That's a situation the Jets are in right now, right? Darnold's 3 years in. We don't really know quite what's going to happen with him, right? He hasn't gotten his team to the playoffs, nor anywhere close to the Super Bowl. What are the Jets going to do with him? This was the same thing with the Eagles. Obviously, Carson Wentz is only 2 years removed from that Los Angeles Rams game where he tore his ACL, and he was having an MVP caliber year. But what I thought was interesting, speaking of Carson Wentz, was the first 2 picks of the NFL draft in 2016 are now traded. Jared Goff traded, obviously, to the Lions in the Matthew Stafford deal, and Carson Wentz now traded to the Colts, and Carson Wentz is the only player that's being moved. So, I look at it as, man, that 2016 draft, there's a lot of movement. And then Joey Bosa, who was the 3rd pick, has already gotten his big payday. So a lot has happened to that 2016 NFL draft team, right? Carson Wentz being drafted first overall, or Carson Wentz being drafted. Obviously, Carson Wentz being drafted, and then Carson Wentz being drafted early there, and then obviously, Carson Wentz was not actually drafted first overall. Jared Goff obviously be drafting first overall. Carson Wentz being drafted 2nd overall, Bosa being drafted 3rd. Those 3 players, there's already a ton of things that have happened there. Jared Goff now with the Lions, obviously Carson Wentz now with the Eagles, or now with the Colts, and then obviously Joey Bosa's already got his big payday. He's already gotten a lot of money. So a lot has happened with that 2016 NFL draft team. But what I really will say here is I'm going to be honest here. I'm surprised, when Carson Wentz was on this team a couple years ago. I mean, if you would have told me that he would have been traded and this would have been a team that was about to enter a mass rebuild, And this is what's so weird about the Eagles team is this is a team that's only a couple years removed from being this is a team that's only a couple years removed from that Super Bowl. I mean, they won the Super Bowl, in 2017 against the Patriots. And Carson Wentz was a big, big, big reason why that team not only got to the Super Bowl, but got to the playoffs. And that was Carson Wentz's MVP caliber year. And it's crazy to think how things could change in the matter of 2 years. I mean, this is a guy in Carson Wentz that got his big payday last season, a season or two ago. They gave him all this money. He struggled a little bit, struggled again last year. And all of a sudden, we're sitting here today talking about him going to the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, the Eagles drafted this guy, thought they had something in him. He looked like he had potential, and then all of a sudden, they just couldn't do anything. And Carson Wentz couldn't do anything. And I'll tell you what, this is a huge deal. And, it's going to be interesting to see how Carson Wentz is. Maybe it's one of these situations where, obviously, maybe it's one of these situations where maybe it's just best for both sides. And maybe it's best for Carson Wentz to go to a change of scenery, go to a new team, and maybe it's best for the Philadelphia Eagles to bring Jalen Hurts into a brand new system with brand new coaches and hope that he does what he did last season, where he had a couple great games. We'll see how that goes. But right now, sitting here right now, this is an Eagles team right now that's in a little bit of a debacle because they didn't get much in return for Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz's contract so big that the Eagles now absorb $30 million of that dead cap space money with that big extension to Carson Wentz. And I was reading something earlier, and I have so many numbers and analytical stuff to go into about this deal. But I was reading something earlier about the deal about this deal. This is the largest cap hit in the history of the NFL, about $34.4 million, the biggest cap hit in NFL history with Carson Wentz. That's how big his contract was, and that's how much incentives and cap hit this took on the Eagles. And I'll tell you what, the Eagles are not getting much in return at all. And like I always said, it's tough to always grade trades or say who won a trade before the season even starts. Most of all, before really even free agency starts, right? Because currently you're right now saying, okay, well, I mean, Carson Wentz is going to a playoff team, and the Eagles are losing Carson Wentz. But at the same time, you could say, okay, well, now the Eagles got rid of their biggest contract. They have Jalen Hurts now. Bring him into a new system, and now you build around him. You can look at it both ways. Eagles fans will look at it. Maybe some Eagles fans will go ahead and say this was a terrible deal. But some Eagles fans may look at it as, hey, we won the trade. And there's many Colts fans out there. Sitting here right now, I would go ahead and say that the Colts won this trade. And the reason is because they barely gave anything up. They gave up a second round pick for this season, a third round pick for this year, 2021 third round pick, and a 2022 second round pick that could turn into a first round pick depending on how the incentives go on Wentz's deal. So Wentz's incentives in his contract here, if Wentz plays 75% or 70% of the snaps and makes the playoffs, that 2022 second round pick will turn into probably like a late first round pick. So you're getting a first round pick, you could say. And I would go ahead and say the Colts are probably going to be a playoff team. They made it last season. They're getting Wentz. They've got a good young receiving core. They've got guys like Michael Pittman and Hines and whatever happens with Marlon Mack. They've got a very good defense. That Colts team with Frank Wright, they're building a really good foundation there, and they showed flashes this year, obviously making the playoffs, of how good they can be, and they did it with an old quarterback that wasn't really mobile, and obviously Carson Wentz now. So, I look at it as, the Eagles are taking a big cap hit, but at the same time, the Colts are also taking in a lot of that money. So we'll see how it goes. But, if Carson Wentz, right, you could look at it like this. If Carson Wentz returns to his old form, like he was 2 years ago, the Colts could very well be contending for a Super Bowl. I mean, this was an MVP caliber quarterback we're talking about here just a couple seasons ago. And if Jalen Hurts, that was a couple games where he really did well and he struggles, well, then the Eagles won this deal. But you could also look at it as if Jalen Hurts is taking the league by storm And he's using his legs, using his arm, doing everything he can, escaping defenders left and right, making moves. Then the Eagles obviously won the deal. And if Wentz is doing the same thing he was doing in Philly, then Philly won this. Then obviously Philly won this deal. Now here's my one thing with Carson Wentz here. The Colts are getting a good quarterback, I see. He struggled last season. Led the league, or I think he led the league in interceptions. Struggled big time last year. Very big. Now, what people always talk about is this same quarterback, Carson Wentz, was an MVP a couple years ago. This is not the same Carson Wentz. I'll tell you why. Ever since Carson Wentz got that torn ACL, and let me tell you what, I would be worried too about re-injuring something. Anyone would be. If you teared your ACL and it was on a play where you were trying to dive and run for the touchdown, you would have that feeling of, oh, I don't want to really do that. Like, oh, I already re-injured. Well, what about the whole re-injuring thing? There's a lot of what-ifs probably going inside of Carson Wentz's head. That's the problem. Carson Wentz doesn't use his mobility anymore. He was one of the most mobile. Look at this. Look at the stats. He ran some of the most times in his first in that MVP caliber year he had with the Eagles. That same Carson Wentz was the Carson Wentz they got from North Dakota State University. He ran a lot in North Dakota State, came to the NFL, used his legs. What Carson Wentz is doing now, he's trying to be a pocket passer, but he's not a pocket passer. That is almost like saying, that is the equivalent to saying Tom Brady trying to use his legs when he's not a mobile quarterback. Carson Wentz has got to get out of this. And that's something I look at this deal too. Because I always try to look at both sides. Whether my team's involved in the deal or not. I always try to look at both sides. I could look at the Eagles and I could look at the Colts side right now and very easily say, hey, they're getting Carson Wentz. This is a guy that was only 2 years ago, was an MVP caliber quarterback, and they're only giving up a third and possibly an early second, possible late round first, depending on how the incentives go in Wentz's contract. Or I could look at it as, ooh, man, the Eagles are not getting anything in return and they're losing Carson Wentz. But I could also look at it as, hey, the Eagles are getting rid of a quarterback who is, maybe completely lost his mobility. They're getting possibly a first-round pick, which, you could always say, oh, a first-round pick's good. Even if it's late or early, it's a first-round pick. Difference between first-round talent and second-round talent. And, you could say it's almost the same, but still, right? He's getting that pick. So you could look at it as, ooh, the Colts are getting a quarterback that has struggled, and the Eagles are giving Jalen Hurts a chance, who thrived last season. So you can look at that both ways. But what I will say is this, is currently sitting here right now, February 18th on a Thursday, I would go ahead and sit here and tell you that the Colts won this deal currently. And I'll tell you why. They didn't give up much. Yes, they gave up a possible late first, more than likely, but they've got to make the playoffs too, the Colts. The Colts have got to make a playoffs. If the Colts don't make the playoffs, this season, then that won't, because it's a 2022 second round pick. If the Colts don't make the playoffs this season, forget about that pick. So, realistically, Eagles fans should be rooting for the Colts this season to make the playoffs. Because then that turns into a late first-round pick. As crazy as it may sound, it's the truth. Because if you go into the numbers, in order to get that, second round and first round aren't crazy different. If it's different if it's between a third-round pick and a first-round pick. But second and third, the talent's about the same, especially late first. But, if this is a Colts team that makes the playoffs, then they're getting there. And Wentz, obviously, if Wentz gets injured and they make the playoffs without Wentz, well, Wentz has got to play at least 75 or 70% of the snaps. But it's going to be really interesting to see. Wentz is trying to be a pocket passer when he isn't a pocket passer. That is very tough to do. Try doing something that you're not good at. Trying to switch. Like, he's a mobile quarterback. He came out of college. He was a mobile quarterback. That's the one thing. That's why the Eagles really drafted him. He had a strong arm and he was mobile. The Eagles really never had that kind of guy. They had Nick Foles for a little bit at starting, right? The Eagles never really had that guy, that mobile quarterback kind of guy, right? So now finally they're getting that mobile quarterback, and he's not mobile anymore. He's trying to be pocket passer. It's hard to do that. There's two different type of quarterbacks. There could be a mobile quarterback, and there could be a pocket passer. If you're a mobile, a guy who throws on the run well, a guy who can escape the pocket, that's good. Wentz isn't using his legs. The number of sacks he is taking his way up. And don't always say that's on the offensive line for Wentz. It is. The offensive line isn't great there. You also got to realize Wentz got sacked increasingly less with almost the same offensive line when he was running a lot more than now. So look at those numbers. Look at the numbers, and you'll realize why Carson Wentz right now, you could say, who? Sure. Go ahead and say that it's the Eagles. I could sit here and say that, too, that it was a bad offensive line. But I do think part of it's because he doesn't use that mobility anymore. So we'll see how this deal works out. But right now, I think the Colts do win the deal. And I think it's just because they're still getting a young quarterback, and they're not giving up much. Okay, you give up a late first-round pick. It's a first-round pick, I get it. But it's not like you're giving up 3 firsts and a player for Wentz. So we'll see how this deal works out. But I'll tell you what. There's going to be some crazy things here. Stafford in a Rams uniform, Goff in a Lions uniform, and Wentz in a Colts uniform. So we'll see how it works out. And this deal could very well blow up on both teams. Who knows? Those draft picks could turn into busts, and Carson Wentz could turn into, who knows, terrible quarterback. This could very well blow up on both teams. That's how trades work, people. Usually there's a winner and a loser. Sometimes it's even. Sometimes there's trades that are even. For example, Stephon Diggs trade, for example, with the Bills. They obviously traded the pick that the Vikings got Justin Jefferson with, one of the best rookies, one of the better rookies, and probably the best rookie receiver drafted in this class. And also, the Bills got Stephon Diggs, who is probably a top 3 receiver right now, probably the 3rd best receiver in the NFL. So, that's a win-win deal. This could very well turn into, those draft picks turn into great players. And, Carson Wentz helps out the Colts. You look at it both ways. We'll see how it works out. But Carson Wentz reportedly traded to the Colts from Eagles for multiple draft picks. So the Philadelphia Eagles reportedly agreed to trade quarterback Carson Wentz to Indianapolis Colts on Thursday in exchange for a 2021 third-round draft pick and a 2022 second-round pick that could become a first-round selection per Adam Schefter of ESPN. Per Mike Garafolo of NFL Network, the pick will become a first-rounder if Wentz plays 75% of the snaps or 70% and the team makes the playoffs. So he could play 70% of the snaps, and, he could play 100% of snaps. And, it doesn't have to be 75. He could play 100% of snaps. The team has to make the playoffs, though. He could play all the snaps and then not make the playoffs. It won't be a first-rounder. So we'll see how it works out. The number 2 overall pick in the 2016 draft quickly fell out of favor in Philadelphia after helping the franchise win its first Super Bowl in 2017. He started 13 games that season before a torn ACL ended his year. He nearly fully recovered his effectiveness and eventually lost the starting job to Jalen Hurts in 2020. Wentz wrapped up his final season in Philadelphia throwing with 2,620 passing yards, a career-low 16 touchdowns, and a career-high 15 interceptions in 12 games. At his peak in 2017, the 28-year-old threw 33 touchdowns and 7 picks with a 101.9 passer rating. He finished 2020 with a passer rating of 72.8. So it really goes to show you the gap there. Indianapolis seemingly believes it will be able to revive the North Dakota State product's career, and was willing to take on the 4-year, $128 million extension he signed ahead of the 2019 season. Wentz won't reach free agency until after the 2024 season, though the Colts have a potential out after next season. Field Yates of ESPN outlined what's left on Wentz's contract. So here's what Indy will owe Carson Wentz. 2021, $10 million roster bonus, 15.4 salary guaranteed, and a $25.4 million cap hit. 2022 is a $22 million contract, 22 million salary, 50 million of that money is guaranteed, 1,000 roster bonus, and a 22 million cap hit. 20 million salary, this is for 2023, will be a 20 million salary, 5 million roster bonus, about a 25 million cap hit. And in 2024 will be 21 million salary, 5 million roster bonus, and about a 26 million cap hit. So they're paying him a lot of money. In Indianapolis, Wentz will be reunited with head coach Frank Reich, who served as the Eagles' offensive coordinator for the 2016-2017 and helped develop Wentz early in his career. That was obviously the year Wentz had the MVP caliber year. Philip Rivers completed a one-year, $25 million deal with the Colts last season and led them to a postseason thanks to a Week 17 victory against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It will be on Wentz to continue that success. Though the AFC South has proved more competitive than the NFC East over the past few years, Wright has a good chance of reviving Wentz's play as any coach in the league. It's an expensive gamble both in terms of assets given up to acquire the quarterback and the cap hit he carries. Either way, the deal is likely to impact the franchise for years to come. Like I said, this is going to impact. But, I mean, you got to also look at this. If you're looking at the playoff aspect of it, I mean, the AFC South is pretty weak right now, if you think about it. Titans and Colts right now are currently they both made the playoffs. They're currently favorites. But then other than that, I mean, Jaguars are going to get Lawrence, but other than that, the Jaguars are still rebuilding, and the Houston, who knows what's going to happen with them? I mean, their GM might be starting. I mean, I'm joking about this, but who knows who their quarterback's going to be week one? And we don't even know. I mean, Houston's a mess right now. So, we'll see how it works out there. But I mean, the Colts and Carson Wentz will have to be really bad to miss the playoffs. Not miss the playoffs, because the AFC is strong. I mean, the Dolphins went 10-6 and they missed the playoffs. So, I mean, they would have to be really bad they're going to probably finish second in the division. They would have to be really bad to finish behind Houston or Jacksonville. That's when I would go ahead and say the Eagles would win the deal. But currently, I would go ahead and say Colts win the deal. Because for the most part, they're still getting a young player. I mean, he's 28. He's not like 35. And if he struggles this season, struggles next year, then you go and say, hey, move on. And maybe that's it for him. But, sometimes change of scenery, new team, new system really helps players. I use this example all the time. Ryan Tannehill was terrible with the Dolphins, terrible under Gaze, went to Mike Vrabel, went to a new system, went to a new team, changed scenery, went to just a completely brand new area, and look, he's led that team to playoffs back-to-back seasons now. So you got to look at it as maybe Wentz does that. Maybe just getting out of Philadelphia, going to a new team could be. I mean, although he did, we'll see how it works out. But, Philadelphia really, when Wentz was there, obviously they really brought him in. And, now that he's not there anymore, we'll see how that works out. But it's a big, big, big deal for this. This is a big deal. And it's crazy how the 2016 NFL draft class is really crazy. So checking out on the 2016 NFL draft class 5 years later, number 1 pick Jared Goff traded on January 30th, and number 2 pick Carson Wentz traded on February 18th. So, it's really crazy. February 18th. That really is crazy that he is not a Eagle anymore. I mean, it's not crazy. I was expecting him to get traded, but you would think, from that draft class, you would think, after that season, you would think, this guy's gonna be the Eagle for a long time. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see how this deal plays out. Currently, I would give the Colts the win on this deal, but we also got to see how. I also want to really see how Jalen Hurts does. So. Let's get up some of Carson Wentz stats here, just to show you, what he's all about. So Carson Wentz stats, obviously, last season he had 2,620 yards, that's 25th in the league. 16 touchdowns, that's tied 20th in the league. 15 interceptions, that's tied for 34th in the league. And a QBR of 49.6, that's 28th in the league. I mean, a QBR of 49.6 is terrible. His overall player rating was 72.8. His career player rating is 82.9, 82.2, 89.2. And I don't even know if you could so much say it's so weird because he came back the next year and had a good season. It's just, he even had a good year. In 2019, he threw 27 touchdowns, 7 picks, 4,039 yards, had the most yards of his career, and then they gave him that big contract, and he stinks this year. And he stinks this last season. He only played 12 games. So, I don't know if it was all because of the pressure maybe. with the media and being in the spotlight and getting that big deal. I don't know if it was the pressure or if it's just straight up he's not that good, or if it's just he needs to change the scenery and he needs to go to a new team. We'll see how it goes. But 28 years old, and it's kind of funny, the age gap. I got to look at that, the age gap. It's probably like, because what? Phillip Rivers last season older, and now they're getting a younger quarterback. And he's still relatively young. I mean, and he's got some experience. He's played 5 years in the league. So, it's going to be interesting. But a lot of players on the move so far. Already 3 big-name players on the move. And to all those NFC East fans out there, Giants, Eagles, Redskins, and Cowboys fans out there, comment down below, or if you're NFC East, or even if you're just a football fan in general, comment down below who you think won the deal currently. And if you're an NFC East fan, or if you're any fan, do you think the Eagles, how do you think Jalen Hurts will go? Because obviously all these people, and obviously, many know who Jalen Hurts is, especially if you obviously play against that team 2 times this season. So, comment down below, who won this deal, you think, and, how will Jalen Hurts work in Philadelphia? Will he build on the success he built last season? And, like I said, I want to really hear if you think they won a deal. So, coming up next, Fernando Tatis Jr. getting a lot of money. Fernando Tatis Jr. getting paid a big contract. I will tell you why this is a great move for the Padres, and I will tell you why Fernando Tatis Jr. will live up to this deal and the hype. Coming up next. Alrighty. So, let's get this up here. So, first of all, Padres, amazing. Amazing offseason. And we can all agree on that. I don't know anyone out there who would say the Padres did not have a good offseason. The Padres had a very good offseason, probably one of the best in the MLB. Got Blake Snell, got Joe Musgrove, got Yu Darvish, extending Fernando Tatis Jr. But Fernando Tatis Jr., reportedly agreed to Fernando Tatis Jr., Padres, reportedly agree to 14-year, $340 million contract extension. I will be the first to say it, and I'm sure many of you watching this video will also say it with me. He is worth every penny of this deal. He is a just amazing talent, amazing player. Every sport, always has that type of player. What you need to do to be good at this sport. What kind of guy you need to be. Athleticism, all that stuff. Fernando Tatis Jr. has everything about him is baseball. Everything about his game, he's just so talented. And you want to know why I think this deal is so good? Is because you're getting him at such a young age. You're signing him at such a young age. The Mike Trout deal, that was big. Mike Trout's still very well in his prime, but he's not that young. Mike Trout's still, 20s, 30-something? But you're getting him at such a young age where he can still learn, still develop. He took the league by storm last year, and I would put money on it that he's going to take the league by storm this season. And it's another thing, too, that pressure doesn't really faze him. You could always sit here and say, oh, all that money, he's going to face pressure. Everyone hoping that he lives up to the hype. All this, and this. With the Padres, he was still trying to prove himself and do that stuff. But I'll tell you what, there's no need to prove himself anymore. He has already proven. Since he stepped on the baseball field in the MLB, he proved to every person out there that he proved to every person out there, that he deserves a true shot in the MLB and that he should get a contract like this. And, comment down below what you think about this, because I am sure many of you would agree with me that this is a great deal for him and that he does deserve this because he's a very good player, very talented, and I mean, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But what can I say? That's how this league is. That's how this league is. It is a lot of money. It is it's a lot of money, but he deserves it. And comment down below what you think about this deal. But to kind of get into how Fernando Tatis Jr. is, to kind of get into how what he's done so well. First of all, he's been an amazing. He's just been such an amazing player. He's just his baseball. You really can't talk more highly of him. He's still young. He's got incredible power. His plate discipline's very good. The guy doesn't swing out of his shoes. He's not a guy that's home run or bust. But obviously he's got amazing plate discipline, amazing power, amazing, just everything about him. He's just overall an amazing player. He's got amazing, plate discipline and stuff like that. This is a guy that's not going to chase pitches outside of his zone. This is a guy that's going to hit home runs. He's going to get on base. He's going to score. He's quick. He's fast. He's got a very fast bat. He's very powerful. He's a very good power guy. He's very powerful. A lot of times, he's a superstar. That's what everyone says. He's a superstar shortstop. He makes plays in the infield too. And that's what I always say about players. You could be great at the plate. You can be dominant at the plate. You could do this, and this at the plate. But if you can't be a solid infielder, then that's a problem. And that's why he's getting $340 million. Because he can play the infield. He's a superstar shortstop. A lot of people would consider him possibly even being even better in the infield or even better at hitting. I would say hitting is his strength. But he can even play shortstop very well. He can hit very well. All around, his game is so good. And this is a guy who came on a couple seasons ago. Obviously, he's got a .301 career batting average. Batted .277 last season, including a grand slam. Everything about this guy, he's such a good player. He is such a superstar. He's such a good player, and he's worth this. And like I said, with his hitting, his fielding, he does it all. He's a superstar. He's a superstar. And, with the 14-year deal, this does give the Padres, a chance to really develop him, really give him a chance. And teams are going to look. I think the Padres, when they were doing this deal, they were looking at this as, what? Especially this year, maybe next season, if we don't get him locked up, you always, you want to get players under contract as early as you can. If they're going insane, if you see this is not a 1 or 2 year wonder kind of player, if you notice that they are playing really well or something like that, you always want to give them a contract extension earlier rather than later. Because if they start to pick it up, other teams are going to start to offer, and the other teams might offer more, and he might like that deal more. But obviously, in regards to this deal, 14 years, $340 million is obviously if you would tell me that would be my deal, I would take it any day. And obviously, we still got to see what all the incentives and the other part of the deal is. But it's a huge deal, and the Padres now are adding already to an offseason where they already added guys like Joe Musgrove, guys like Blake Snell, Darvish. If the Dodgers weren't a thing, I would go ahead and say the Padres going to be representing the NL in the World Series. But the Dodgers are a thing, and that NL, that National League West, is going to be so much fun. Is it going to be the Padres? Is it going to be Dodgers? It's probably going to be one of those things where one day it's the Dodgers, it's the Padres. All right, Padres. Padres are, oh, no, the Dodgers come back. Okay, Padres, and it's even now. It's even. They're just going to be coming at each other the entire season. It's just going to be like, oh, no, I'm in first place. No, I'm in first place. No, I'm in first place. It's almost like, I don't know if you watched that. It's almost like The Long Gone Summer, where Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire had the whole home run thing, where it was that year of who could hit the more home runs. And one game Mark McGwire had more home runs. Then it was Sammy Sosa. Then it was McGwire. Then it was Sosa. Then it was McGwire for a little bit. Eventually McGwire ended up holding the league and ended up leading the league in home runs that season. But it was like literally back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's what I feel like the National League West is going to be this season. It's going to be the Dodgers and the Padres. It's going to be Dodgers are here. Oh no, now the Padres are it's going to be so much fun to see Fernando Tatis Jr. face Walker Buehler, Trevor Bauer, guys like that. The National League West is so exciting. I'll tell you what, this deal is not only great for the Padres, but it's great for baseball because you're getting to see this is talent This is talent we don't get to see every day. People talk about Tom Brady and all that. I'm not comparing Fernando Tatis Jr. to Tom Brady, but people talk about Tom Brady all the time, like watching him in Super Bowls and stuff, like with all these rings, like that's stuff we don't see often. And I totally agree with that. But this too, like this guy, like for baseball terms, Fernando Tatis Jr., this great of a player, we don't get to see every day. I mean, this is a guy this is very rare to see a guy this good at this young of an age. Baseball, people always say sometimes, is more of a developing sport. You might not always crash onto the scene right away. But this guy coming up through the minors, this is a guy, since he stepped on the baseball field, has been a dominant force for the San Diego Padres, right? You can even say a guy like a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He needed some more time to develop. Fernando Tatis Jr. hasn't needed any time to develop. He developed in the minors, came right to the MLB, and you can almost say he's one of the most MLB-ready players ever. And I'll tell you what, I would almost put in that he's one of the front runners for the MVP already. We don't get to see this kind of talent every day. That's why watching Mike Trout is so special. Watching guys like Garrett Cole pitching is so special. Watching guys like Fernando Tatis Jr. is so special. There's these different players in each sport that are just so special to watch that we don't get to see a lot, and Fernando Tatis is one of them. So that's why he deserves this deal. And as a fan, you got to enjoy this. Like, you got to look at this as, hey, we're getting a lot more Fernando Tatis Jr., and we're going to be able to watch him for a very long time, and he's getting a lot of money, and this talent, this is as good as talent can get. I mean, you could say he's one of the best players in the league right now. I mean, Mike Trout, Fernando Tatis Jr. is just a star-studded league now, and the Padres making yet another big move in the offseason, but just so much talent for Fernando Tatis Jr. I mean, I don't even think he's in his prime yet. I mean, he's playing insane, and I don't even think he's in his prime yet. That's how good he can be. So, we'll get into this. But Fernando Tatis Jr., Padres reportedly agreed to 14-year, $340 million contract extension. The San Diego Padres and superstar shortstop Fernando Tatis Jr. came to terms on a 14-year contract extension Wednesday per Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic. Robert Murray of Fansided reported the deal was for $340 million. In just 2 MLB seasons, Tatis has quickly developed into one of the best all-around players in Major League Baseball, and Padres' decision to lock up the 22-year-old phenom long-term speaks to that fact. Tatis Jr., who's the son of former MLB third baseman Fernando Tatis, burst onto the scene in 2019. As a rookie, when he hit .317 with 22 home runs, 53 RBIs, 61 runs scored, and 16 stolen bases. Despite appearing in just 84 games, Tatis finished third in National League Rookie of the Year voting. His second season came under difficult circumstances in a campaign that was shortened to 60 games because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Tatis hit .277 with 17 homers, 45 RBIs, 50 runs scored, and 11 steals in 59 games, making him a clear NL MVP candidate. Although the Padres fell to the Dodgers in the NL division series, Tatis' first playoff run was a fruitful one. In 6 postseason games, he hit .318 with 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, and 5 runs scored. .318 in the postseason for that young of a player against a great Dodgers team who ended up winning a World Series. If that doesn't show you how good he is, then I don't know what does. Tatis would have been under team control through the 2024 season, with arbitration each year from 2022 to 2024. But the Padres avoided having to go through that process by signing him to a new deal. Perhaps no team in baseball is better set up for a long-term success than the Padres, as they are stocked with quality prospects as well as young stars at the major league level. A lineup consisting of Tatis, Manny Machado, Eric Hosmer, and Will Myers is among the best in baseball, and figures to help make the Padres World Series contenders in 2021 and beyond. The Padres and their fans dealt with several lean years to get to this point, as they missed the playoffs in 13 consecutive years from 2007 to 2019. But with Tatis in the fold for a long time to come, the Padres could now become a perennial playoff team. It's the truth. That's another thing. This team still got an amazing farm system, so much young talent, so many guys like Will Myers that have been with this team for a long time, veterans, and this team is a great mix. You're getting guys like Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove. Boom, there's your pitching staff right there. You can make the argument it's one of the best in the league. And then You know, I mean, I looked at the top pitching staff, so I put the Padres at like number 2 here. You know, I put what? This is their pitching staff. It's Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, Danielson, Lamet, Chris Paddock, and Adrian Morejon, and obviously Joe Musgrove. So they're only adding here. And, you know, this is a team still that's still young, it's still young, and they're so good. And yet they're so good. And I'll tell you what, they've spent a lot of money on this infield, and it's worth it. Because infield defense is big. And the Padres have spent a ton of money on the infield, hitting. They've spent a lot of money. They've done a lot. This is a team that's very good. But yeah, Tatis, so deal is the 3rd biggest ever. So Tatis Jr.'s deal is actually the biggest ever. So I just wanted to read this really quickly. So Fernando Tatis Jr.'s $34 million Padres contract, biggest MLB deals ever. So it's among them. So San Diego Padres have reportedly signed Fernando Tatis Jr. to the 3rd richest contract in MLB history, coming to terms with the 22-year-old shortstop on a 14-year, $340 million deal, per Kevin Assey of the San Diego Union Tribune. The deal is the longest in MLB history per Assey. The Los Angeles Angels center fielder Mike Trout and Los Angeles Dodgers right fielder Mookie Betts are the only 2 players with more lucrative deals. Tatis surpassed Philadelphia Phillies right fielder Bryce Harper and New York Yankees outfielder designated hitter Giancarlo Stanton, who each have contracts worth north of $320 million with his signing. So here's a look at where Tatis' deal falls within the 5 richest contracts in baseball history per Cots contracts. So the richest deal in baseball history is obviously Los Angeles Angels center fielder Mike Trout, $426 million. 2019, obviously 2030, he's obviously in that deal. So $426 million. Los Angeles Dodgers right fielder Mookie Betts is $365 million. San Diego Padres shortstop Fernando Tatis Jr., like I said, is $340 million. Philadelphia Phillies right fielder Bryce Harper is $330 million. And New York Yankees left fielder Giancarlo Stanton is $325 million. So obviously, both are very, 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 very high. All these deals are very, very big. So he's the 3rd biggest deal in MLB history with $340 million, and for only a guy that's in his 3rd season, which is really just amazing. And he deserves it. He really does, because he is a very good player. So let's look at. So Ronald Acuña's extension was big. Now let's look at Tatis. So extension is $100 million over 8 years. And for Ronald Acuña and Tatis' contract is $340 million over 14 years. So a lot more money. We thought Acuña's was big. Tatis is even bigger. And those are some of the young stars in the game that really are. So the Padres offseason, which is really just amazing. Padres offseason, the Padres did work this offseason. They really did. Traded for Yu Darvish and Blake Snell. Extended Fernando Tatis Jr. to a 14-year, $340 million, 3rd largest overall deal in MLB history. So they really did not waste any opportunities to continue to get better. That really is, and they are going to be a really, really, really big force in that NL, and it's going to be a fun division to watch. Dodgers, Padres, and it's crazy. And that's the thing too, is he's still so young, so he could still develop, he could still do all that. But this is one of the best young stars in the game, and he's getting a lot of money, and he deserves it. So let's look at the stats here of Fernando Tatis Jr. Let's look at the numbers here. All right, so 2020 postseason stats, like I said earlier, was 22 at-bats, 318 batting average, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 1 stolen base, and 1.126 OPS. And he did a lot of that against the Dodgers, against a team that won the World Series with great pitching, which is going to show you how good he can be. His 2020 stats, he had 224 at-bats, 277 batting average, 17 home runs, 45 RBIs, 11 stolen bases, and an OPS of 937. And his MLB career stats is 558 at-bats, 301 batting average, 39 home runs, 98 RBIs, 27 stolen bases, and OPS of 956. Is going to be a guy with great power, great athleticism, and he can run too. He's quick. He can be good on the base pass as well. It's another thing too. This is not only a guy that can be solid, and this is a guy too. He hasn't even played a full season yet. He's played 84 games in 60 last season. So this is a guy who, this is really be his first 162 game season, because obviously he came on, mid-year, that one season where he played 84 games. Obviously, last season was the shortened 60-game season. So this season, obviously, he gets to play the full 162 there. We'll really be able to see even how much better he is. So comment down below what you think of this deal. Does he deserve it? And, just really how you think the Padres are going to do. And, so a lot of good, a lot of good sports. It's, at the Tatis Jr. deal breaking, obviously that big breaking news stuff. So a lot of great sports news. But yeah, so anyway, so let's get into the other stuff here. So for the college basketball, yesterday Tennessee won, Loyola Chicago won, Kansas won, and USC won. Let's get into the Kentucky game. Kentucky won yesterday, 82-78. We moved to 7-13 on the season, so good. A good game for the Kentucky. Davion Mintz at 18 points, Brandon Boston 12 points, Olivia Sarr 10 points, Zay Jackson 15 points, and Jacob Topman at 16 points. So those were your leaders in points. Obviously, Davion Mintz led the team in points. So we got the win. Good game. Good win. As for today's games, the ranked games, we got Houston, Wichita State. I give Houston the win. Wisconsin, Iowa, I give Wisconsin the win. Ohio State, Penn State, I give Ohio State the win. Rutgers, Michigan, I give Michigan the win. Gonzaga, St. Mary's, give Gonzaga the win. And San Diego State and Fresno State give San Diego State the win. And then as for the NBA here, yesterday the Warriors won, Jazz won, Grizzlies won, Trailblazers won, Pacers won, Wizards won, Bulls won, 76ers won, Hawks won, and Magic won. And today we got the Bucks, Raptors give Bucks the win, and Heat, Kings give Heat the win. The Nets also play today. Nets play today against the Lakers. Nets come in this game 18-12. Lakers come in this game 22-7. Lakers are 2.5-point favorites. The over/under is 231.5. This game comes on at today, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT. So the Nets don't have KD. He is out. We should get Kyrie back. He obviously missed the one game. We still have James Harden. So Kyrie and Harden versus LeBron and the rest of that Lakers team. Obviously, AD's out. This is possible. Many think this is a finals preview of, the Nets-Lakers battling it out for the championship. A lot of people really believe that. So, I'll give the Nets the win here. It's going to be tough. It's definitely going to be a tough game. If we had KD, I would even be more certain about that win. But we don't have KD. So, if I'm about 50-50, I could very well, I am about 50-50. And we've done well so far on this West Coast trip. We're 3-0 so far. So we're doing well here. We've gained a little bit of a good win streak here going. So, go Nets. I mean, this is a big game. This is a huge game. It's going to be really exciting to watch. So that's that. And then as for the NHL, yesterday the Oilers won, Canucks won, Blackhawks won, Maple Leafs won, and Panthers won. And today we got the Bruins. Devils give Bruins the win. Penguins, Islanders give Penguins the win. Blue Jackets, Predators give Blue Jackets the win. Capitals, Sabres give Capitals the win. Maple Leaf Senators give Maple Leafs the win. Blues, Sharks give Blues the win. And then we got Kings, Coyotes give Coyotes the win. And Wild, Ducks give Wild the win. Alrighty, so we got the Rangers game today as well. Today is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rangers come in this game 4-7-3. Flyers come in this game 8-3-2. The over/under is 6 for this game. This game comes on at TVAS. You can find it on, I don't even know what channel that is. I don't even watch it. But you can also find it on MSG as well. The MSG network's there, so I'll be watching on MSG. But the Rangers come in this game. They're struggling. They get Panarin back. So I do think it's going to be a close game because we get Panarin back. But I don't know if we're going to win this game. I don't think we will because the Flyers are a very good team. You heard what I was saying yesterday. Now, if the Rangers come out and play well and they look like they want to be there, sure, they would win. But I haven't seen enough of that. And the Flyers are a very good team, one of the best teams in the league. So, as much as I hate to say it, I do think the Flyers will win here. But, I mean, I think it's going to be close because we get Panarin back and I think we'll get some of our goal scoring. But the Flyers are a good team. I mean, they are a very good all-around team, especially offensively. They score a lot of goals, and they get a lot of good chances. So, go Rangers, but, we'll see how that plays out there. So, now we move on here to fantasy here. So fantasy basketball, I'm winning 713 to 664. So going pretty good there. Today I got Kyrie Irving going, Jimmy Butler, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, and Kyle Lowry. And obviously Kyrie Irving's day-to-day. This is the injury report. Kyrie Irving's day-to-day. Kyrie back is listed as probable. Irving back is listed as probable for Thursday's game against the Lakers. Mark Stein of the New York Times reports. So that's really good there. Kyle Lowry is also day-to-day. Lowry ankle is questionable for Thursday's game against the Bucks. Aaron Rose of Sports Illustrated reports. So hopefully he gets in there. And Victor Oladipo out. Oladipo foot is out Wednesday against 76ers. Mark Narducci of the Philadelphia Inquiry reports. So that was obviously some yesterday news there. But yeah. And as for fantasy hockey, I'm winning 37-31. And I got going today. I got going Mika Zibanejad, Jack Eichel, Artemi Panarin, Anzez Kopitar, Nicholas Backstrom, Braden Shen, Ryan Ellis, and my goalies are Semyon Varlamov and John Gibson. So, looking good there. Obviously, no real injury reports on the hockey. So far, so good. Hockey has been pretty clean of injuries. There's been a couple injuries here and there, but basketball team, I've gotten drilled this season with injuries. And I still haven't made many acquisitions just because the teams are bigger, the rosters are bigger. So, we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, a lot of good sports on tonight. Rangers-Flyers should be a good game. Rangers-Flyers is always a good game, no matter how the teams are going, because it's a good old rivalry. And we obviously got a possible finals preview, with many people think it's going to be the NBA Finals. Battling for the championship will be the Nets-Lakers. So, go Rangers and Nets. It should be exciting. But, yeah, with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.